Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Wednesday, the 20th of June, comes to you from London. We start by looking at the dollar again, looking strong, still holding to that strength. Interestingly, we've just activated another upside target, another 3.6% higher on the dollar, so that strong dollar really is the theme. And looking at the euro, we're seeing that it's still just teetering along the bottom there, having activated that downside target of 111, so that's 4.4% lower from here. Against the yen, dollar is now strengthening, not quite bullish yet, having fallen away quite heavily yesterday morning, but we are recovering, so looking stronger and medium term still strong. And sterling is lower against the dollar, nudging this 132 level. We've got downside targets now as low as 128.70, so that's another 2% lower as well. And the sterling against the euro we're seeing here is weakening as well. And against the Swiss franc, sterling looking quite weak below the cloud, and having made that medium-term transition is more bearish. And against the Australian dollar, just as a final check, just starting to fall below the cloud there as well, so sterling looking weak. Bitcoin sitting at $6,600, down a further 1.9% this morning. We have turned a little bit bearish since we crossed above that 6,500 level. Bullish back above the cloud, but the medium and long-term charts are still very bearish for Bitcoin. US markets shrugged off the global weakness overnight, and we have seen the indices just sitting really quite flat. The S&P was actually down. The Nasdaq actually down a third of a percent, but not falling anywhere near as heavily as we saw in Europe and Asia. And the futures signaled lower levels. The Dow was down 1% though, and GE comes out of the Dow today, replaced by Boots Alliance Walgreens. So interesting to see that change. GE out of the Dow for the first time in over 100 years. The Russell 2000 also just held on steady yesterday. The futures this morning, the S&P future up 0.25%, the Nasdaq E-mini up just 0.2%. UK market not yet open, but was down yesterday a third of a percent and looking weaker on that short-term chart. And the mid caps also were down more heavily, down 0.75%, again looking weaker. The German DAX, the weaker euro has helped a little bit here this last week or so, but the plummet that we saw yesterday is putting us below the cloud, and we need to see whether we recover back above that level. And the CAC Quarante also, as we wouldn't be surprised to see, similarly below the cloud on the short-term chart. The Japanese market was up 0.5% overnight. Hang Seng, which fell heavily the day before, was up 1%, retracing some of that fall. The Chinese market was only up 0.5%, having fallen 3.5% the day before, and is now looking clearly bearish. We flagged China as our biggest worry for global equities. The Chinese market looking more and more worrying all the time. Downside targets. A collapse in Chinese equities still a possibility. Looking at the Sensex, we see here that we held on and we're actually up 0.5%, and the Australian market was also up over 1%, so looking stronger there. Crude oil looking like it's regaining some of its strength, sitting at $75. WTI sitting at $65, and also just needing to get back above that cloud short term. US nat gas sitting at $2.92, so bearish below the cloud here on the short term chart, but medium term are looking a little bit better. Taking a look at gold, gold is sitting at it's 1273. That's silver, in fact. Gold is sitting at this 1273 level. So bearish in the medium term, the long term chart holding on. We do have downside targets here. 12666 not quite met, and we've got a new downside target as low as 1218 for gold. But we do still have a lot of long term targets dominating to the upside. Silver also below the cloud there as well. US 10-year yield sitting at 2.9%, so recovering a little bit this morning. And we're looking at some of the US tech majors. Apple was up overnight, down 1.6%, so Apple really falling there. Google also interesting, up slightly at 0.63% up, and looking at Alphabet, we were down 0.5%, and interesting, we've got these targets on Google there. Facebook just struggling in these to get to this 200 level. We have hit 198, but just falling back a little bit last night. And Microsoft still holding on to that $100 level, and little changed overnight, but just starting to look a little bit more bearish on the short term. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.